So you've all written a writer statement before, or at least the year 11s I had last year did. So what we're going to be looking at for this one is so go to the next slide, to understand how to write an effective writer statement for a creative piece in English. I want you guys to, if you're not dot pointing, at least think about your audience, the text type, the purpose, the context, and start thinking about your structural and language features. When we did the writer statement last year, we all spoke about like magazine conventions or things like that. You've now done t-shirts, pamphlets, advertising on TV, and you are following certain conventions. So I want you guys to start thinking about what sort of structures have you used for like billboards, or what have you used for an information document and things like that. So move to what is a writer statement. So when you guys submit your work, a writer statement will appear at the beginning of it, and then they'll look at your advertisements. The reason for that is because they want to know your motivation before they start looking at it. It kind of gives you guys the freedom a little bit to, maybe your advertisement isn't the best it could have been, or maybe you're handicapped by lack of technology or lack of programs, things like that. But if you've explained what you were trying to do in your statement, then they can see that, and they can see that you've put in an effort, so that kind of puts your grade up a little bit. It also shows that you can think about your own work in a both critical way and a creative way. So you need to be able to do both. Also, you need to show that all the decisions that you made were on purpose, even if they were subconscious. Like, you do tend to say put a billboard, you'll put large font because you want it to be seen. You mightn't have thought of that, but that is a convention and you've done it on purpose. Helps the teacher assess the work, deepens your engagement with work, shows that you can analyze the techniques that you use. This is an important point. Don't just list what you've done, because it's very, very easy to fall into that trap. You need to be able to say, I use this technique for this reason, not these are the techniques I use and it created this. Okay, you need to explain exactly what techniques you've used. And when it comes to your target audience, do you remember the exemplars that we all went through? And you had your A standard versus your B minus standard. There was a difference in the way that they explain their target audiences. So I'm going to give you a bit of a run through on that and how they want it written and how they want you guys to set it out. So move to the next slide. You can write a writer statement in various ways. You could show it through annotations. You could show it through breaking it down with each element. You could put all the elements together and explain why you've used the same technique in every one. There's various ways that you can do it, but your general structure will be conventions, techniques that make meaning, language, and structural features. That'll be your general set out of your paragraphs. And because you guys have 1,000 words versus I think they had like 300 words to write a writer statement last year, you've got more room to play with it, and you've got more explanations that you can make. As I've said before, you need to show that you've used these techniques and conventions intentionally. So if they look at your advertisement and they see that you've used a technique but you haven't mentioned it in your writer statement, you may lose marks there, because they want to see that you've done both. They want to see that you understand what you've done and how it works. Okay? Next one. So it should contain what you intended to achieve and why. So when I say what you intended to achieve, for example, a beer a day, you intend to show people that maybe drinking isn't always as bad. There's such a negative point of view when it comes to drinking. Your intent, like you might have intended to achieve that maybe a beer a day is actually all right. You want your piece of work to have an effect on them. So you've got animal cruelty. You've used certain features and certain words and certain pictures to evoke a response. Okay? So you need to explain what effect that you want your audience to have. Like, you want a response, you need to explain that response. You need to analyze and explain structural features. We'll probably run through exactly what structural features are. That structural features come down under conventions. Okay, so when they talk about conventions, they're always talking about, again, structural features. Language features. So what are some language features that you guys can remember from past years? I'll give you an example of one: alliteration. would be one. So what's another one that you guys might have used for this one? Fun?
Is that one?
Rhyme. Yeah, rhyme's one. Yeah.
Onomatopoeia, is that one?
Yeah, that's one as well.
Similes.
Similes and metaphors. Perfect. Personification. Anything else that you guys might think of? What have you used in your own? Is there anything that you can think of? You, like, for example, short language. I think you've used alliteration a few times. Shock factor, maybe? I can't remember. So shock factor would be like if you just saw a billboard on the side of the road and it just said drugged, and that was it. That's going to make you pay attention because you don't see that every day. And so it's a bit of like a shock factor of, oh, okay, wait, I have to pay attention to this. What are they talking about? So stuff like that. So you've got, yeah, I've got techniques, linguistic features, which is language features, stylistic features, conventions, figurative language, filming techniques. That's what you hit. And poetic devices. Also, a huge one is quote your own work. And I don't mean quote it as, oh, I'm just going to put this section in and they'll know what I mean. No, you have to embed your quotes in. Don't fall into the trap of just randomly putting in quotes hoping that it backs up what you're saying. No, embed them in, make sure that you're quote, analysing, and then why you've done it or how it's going to affect your audience or what the response you intended, okay? You need to set them out like that. You can't just have a quote floating in there thinking that that's enough evidence and they'll get it. That's where you drop down to a C. If you want that A standard, embed your quotes. Next slide. So first thing, this is your first paragraph. What were your intentions? So what form are all of your elements taking? So what have we got? We've got pamphlet, t-shirts, and billboard. We've got film advertisement, t-shirts, and billboard. What have we got after that? I can't remember. Pamphlet and t-shirts as well? I think so. And we've got t-shirts, internet, article, and pamphlet. So you need to be able to tell me exactly what form all of your texts are taken or all of your elements are taken. So then we've got purpose. What did you want to achieve? So you could entertain, inform, mock, make a comment, persuade. I think most of you have gone the persuasive way. Probably comment a little bit there as well. Talk about your target audience. Now, these are all the things that you need to think about with your target audience. You've got age, interests, values, experiences, gender, and education. What do I mean by education? So if you've got someone that is very, very educated, are they going to understand this? Are they going to be convinced by it? If that's your target audience, then you need to be quite formal. You need to be very factual, and you need to have the right words in every argument, otherwise they'll tear it apart. However, if you've got someone who maybe isn't as educated or maybe doesn't come from Australia, things like that, you'd have to use simple language in order for them to understand. So who's that? Who are you targeting? Are you targeting your well-educated? Are you targeting your refugees? Are you targeting kids who maybe haven't even finished school yet? Who are you targeting, and what's their education? What's their background? Can they understand this, and will they be convinced by it? Also context, and how is it relevant to society at the moment? So with your own, so we've got smoking, beer a day, organ donation, animal cruelty. Where are they sitting in society at the moment? With all of those. What is society currently going against?
They're trying to stop
Smoking.
Public and stuff.
Yeah, so they're all banning them in public. Smoking is something that's actually being talked about a lot, especially in the sense that they say smoking is worse than marijuana, but marijuana is illegal. So things like that. It's very relevant at the moment. Drinking, where's that sitting with people at the moment?
Just in general.
Just in general, where's it sitting?
It's sitting like it's just an everyday thing. It's not
It's an
like,
everyday thing. It's pretty social.
yeah,
What's the problems with drinking that they're currently hitting?
towards alcoholic issues.
Alcoholic issues
People
and
refusing.
alcohol abuse and underage drinking as well is very relevant. So when you're thinking about your audience, you have to make sure you're not hitting that underage drinking sort of, because kids might turn around to their mom and dad and say, well, they said it's okay for me to have a beer a day. So no, you have to make sure you're not hitting the underage sort of kids. Where's animal cruelty at the moment? Is that gone up or down in terms of audience? The audience has gone up, yeah. People are more against it, yeah. I think after Harambe, it's probably gone up a little bit more, especially since that became such a viral meme. Also, we've got companies like PETA, or and there's like veganism, vegetarianism's all gone up a little bit, and organ donation. Is that being talked about at all, boys? Not very talked about. So what would your context be? Would it be? There we go. Perfect. So that's your whole first paragraph. So do you think you guys could get 250 words out of that?
Easy.
Easy? Awesome. All right, next one, structural features. You need to name the features of your element. You need to explain why you've used them in the way that you've used them. So you might have used a bold font, but why did you use that particular font? Why have you used that particular picture? Why have you used that particular color scheme? You'll do things without thinking about them, and then I want you to explain why you've done them. So might be a bit difficult, but that's the things that we're looking for. I didn't list all of the elements that were in every single one, purely because there are too many. But I'll help you out all individually about isolating which conventions that you've done. I think you've all done a t-shirt. So what are conventions in a t-shirt design to raise awareness? What are some?
Eye-catching.
Eye-catching, yeah.
Not a lot of words.
Not a lot of words, so keep it condensed, yeah.
Not too busy.
Not too busy. Or it can go either way. It's either not too busy or extremely busy. Like
You want someone to get some more information out of it.
yeah. Yeah.
We need,
What about how do you get people to look at it? Not like that's another thing. Because you've isolated that. Okay, do you guys always wear black t-shirts or white t-shirts?
Yeah.
Do you also wear coloured t-shirts?
really.
Oh guys, get some colour in your life. But you will use eye-catching colours and things like that. So even maybe on your plain white and black t-shirts, there will be spots of colour. That's what I was trying to get at, is colour schemes are definitely used in t-shirts very heavily. These are the questions I want you guys to think about when it comes to language conventions, if you move to the next slide. Every element has language conventions. Can you tell me what conventions are yours? I'll get you guys to do that in a separate activity. But you also need to talk about how these are used to make an impact of the audience. So you have to constantly bring it back to your audience. Okay? You can't tell your moderator a story about why you've done something, in the sense that, oh, this isn't complete because I had a really hard weekend. Or you can't make it personal, you have to make it very, very objective. And that's why I keep telling you guys, always bring it back to your audience. Don't bring it back to your story or something that you've done. It has to be very objective, very third person, kind of like you're analysing someone else's piece of work. So when you guys are, and yes, you are going to be swapping writer statements. When you guys swap writer statements, that's what I'm going to get you guys to look out for, is this person being objective? Okay. Another thing is, make sure you analyze your decisions, don't list them. I put that in as a reminder again. So when you go back through this, because I'm going to assume that you're all going to go back through this sort of stuff, make sure you analyze all of your decisions in that one. And we talked about quotations, embed them, don't just add them in. And this comes under your evidence. Show me that you've used the techniques, don't just explain them. Yep, I've already spoken about how to write it. Past tense, objective. Take yourself out of it, don't use I. I've given you guys an example there. So use alliteration there, and it's all got the I in the top.